Morning, everyone. Thanks. I'll give my title, which is an apology for being the only ag guy, not ag guy, that's in the room or in the entire establishment. So I have an agency in the government of Virginia, and we do everything bilateral with Israel. And one of the core functions is economic development function, and so there's a lot of bringing Israeli companies into Virginia and setting up their operations here. And that's a driver that we're also very involved with Virginia Tech, and obviously Israeli companies are pretty synergetic with what's going on here in controlled environment agriculture, so we're active in that space also. So I thought, just to distract the fact that I don't know anything about agriculture, because that's not my core task, I thought I'd have half-naked people and some food in my first slide. That's Adam and Eve to say that actually we have our New Year's today. This is 5,785 years since the creation, which happened this week in Israel, and this is the Garden of Eden. So I'm from the Garden of Eden of late bloomers when it comes to my climbing the knowledge graph on CEA, but I'm happy to help. So this is some of the points we're going to touch on today, but one thing we have done here that really hasn't been touched on too much in the forums so far is that we, along with Virginia Tech, we conceptualized a project which was captured growth fish tanks, we ultimately got it capitalized for $220 million, and it's being built and rolled out in Virginia, and we did it along with Virginia Tech. They came to Israel, found some of the technology, and everybody got too big for their britches, and finally we had to find private equity firm to fund it, and it's going well. It's up in Tazewell County, Virginia, which is a place that, from the economic development point of view, really could use some uplifting jobs, and there'll be about 200 of them, and the overall investment initially was committed $220 million. So that's certainly something we've done also with this team group from a Virginia Tech that touches on that silo. So just a little background, if you know Israel, I'll give a little bit on the ag, and then I think there's a lot of confluence with general R&D and tech investment in your space as well. Even on the water side, Israel desalinates and does desalinization, probably about most of its drinking water. And you gotta be careful with your terms, because we have the word savannification in your field. I remember back in the 90s, or it was probably the late 80s, our Prime Minister, Shimon Peres, who was also a Nobel laureate, he once gave a speech about Israel's prowess in desalinization or desalination. It's not clear what the term is, but anyway, the KGB translated it into de-Stalinization. And so I wrote this slide 5 times because I wanted to use the term savannification, and it's also savannification. But Israel's probably, you tell me, the only place in the world where that phenomena of taking back the desert. I spent some time in Ethiopia for about 5 years at the turn of the century. It was about 40% forest, and now it's about 4% forest. So in Israel, and this picture here that's literally the desert, that lake and those trees. Those are 30-meter trees that the density is probably 10-meter trees, probably 30, maybe 120, 150 to an acre in the middle of the desert. And I literally once took King Hussein from Jordan, his landscape architect, it was basically his gardener, his landscape architect, and he saw this phenomenon. It's unheard of. We have a desert with more resources going to it for ornamental trees than the king has in his palace in Jordan. So a couple of things, of course, you know about in terms of Israel, because of the need and because of the water scarcity, we're really a pioneer in drip irrigation systems. 100% of the agricultural water in Israel comes from either sewage or gray water, runoff water. There's nothing that comes from pure water sources that you probably enjoy from the sky, as much as God built the earth and it rained. The next chapter, the chapter with Adam and Eve, the next chapter is Noah, where it rained. That doesn't happen in Israel. Literally, we pray for rain in the winter, and in the summer we only pray for dew. That'll be just a little few drops on the plants in the morning. So we have this phenomenon of savannification, try to take back the desert, and that same climate, we have the need for agriculture to have fairly sophisticated drip irrigation systems. You know the company, you've heard of Netafim, it's pretty common in the States. Yeah, so the need came from Israel. Back 150 years ago, Rothschild would buy land in Israel and settle people in what ultimately became communist farms. 200 people, and they raised crops and built the land, and those evolved into cooperatives, and ultimately there was a kibbutz, this cooperative farm on the cusp of the desert in the south of Israel, and they just didn't have enough water. And they had saline in the soil, so they would have to take these little drippers and put a lot of water initially to make a bit of a cloud around the plant's roots to protect it from the saline, and then ultimately just drip with nutrients or without whatever the plants actually needed and without any waste at all. So this is to try to court partnerships for Israeli companies, which one of the things we can do to help you with. Just so you know, this particular settlement was maybe 600 people lived there, and ultimately they built this drip irrigation company with 5,000 employees in 130 countries, ultimately bought by a Mexican conglomerate for over $1 billion, and now they're partial owners of it. So that's the need driver. In terms of technology and elsewhere in Israel, Israel is the highest per capita spend in R&D in the world, and the highest number of people involved in R&D in the world. And unfortunately, the highest per capita spend in venture capital, so the money goes in and it wants to get out really quick, and sometimes the companies don't last as long as they could as a standalone company. But from the partnership side, the innovation side, in the ag space, you have a really robust VC community investing in companies, and I don't know if you can see this. You see this sign? I catered to you that there was I don't know if you know this company, a co-investment between an Israeli VC and a Dutch VC, and ultimately, Ryder, they invested